Budapest, the capital of Hungary, is a city celebrated for its unique blend of history, architecture, and vibrant culture. Divided by the Danube River, the city comprises two main areas, Buda, known for its hills, historic castles, and quiet, residential charm, and Pest, the bustling center of culture, commerce, and nightlife. The two halves are connected by iconic bridges, like the Chain Bridge, which offers beautiful views of the river and surrounding landmarks. Some of Budapest's most famous sites include the Hungarian Parliament building, a stunning example of neo-Gothic architecture situated along the river, Buda Castle, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that provides panoramic views of the city, and the Fisherman's Bastion, with its fairy tale towers and turrets. The city also boasts many thermal baths, such as Széchenyi and Gellért, which have been in use since Roman times and offer both relaxation and a glimpse into local life. The city is lively and filled with cafes, ruined pubs, bars set in old, abandoned buildings, museums, and theaters. Budapest's cultural events, like the Budapest Spring Festival and Széchenyi Festival, attract visitors from around the world. With its blend of Gothic, Baroque, and Art Nouveau architecture, and its unique mix of historical and modern influences, Budapest offers something captivating at every corner. Budapest's history is as rich and layered as the city itself, dating back over 1,000 years to its early Celtic and Roman roots. Originally a collection of separate settlements, Buda, Buda, and Pest, the city developed around the banks of the Danube and evolved into a vibrant European capital shaped by conquests, revolutions, and cultural renaissances. The earliest roots of Budapest trace back to the Roman Empire, around the 1st century AD, when the Romans established a settlement known as a quincum in what is now Buda. A quincum became an important military and civilian center in the province of Pannonia. Visitors can still explore the remnants of a quincum today, including ruins of baths, amphitheaters, and ancient artifacts. Following the collapse of the Roman Empire, the area was inhabited by a variety of tribes, including the Huns, Avars, and eventually the Magyars in the late 9th century. Buda became the Hungarian capital in the 14th century, when King Matthias Corvinus and his court brought the Renaissance to Hungary, constructing grand castles and fortresses. The Ottoman Turks invaded Hungary in the 16th century, capturing Buda in 1541 and holding it for nearly 150 years. This era left a lasting influence on the city's architecture and culture, notably introducing Turkish baths, which are still an integral part of Budapest's spa culture today. In the late 17th century, the Habsburgs reclaimed Buda and Pest, beginning a period of Austrian rule. By the 18th century, the cities began to grow rapidly, especially Pest, which flourished as a commercial hub. The unification of Buda, Pest, and Buda in 1873 marked the official creation of Budapest, and the city experienced a golden age of growth and modernization. Landmarks like the Hungarian Parliament building and the Chain Bridge were built during this time, transforming Budapest into one of Europe's grand capitals. The 20th century brought immense challenges. Budapest was severely damaged during World War II, especially during the siege of Budapest, when Soviet forces encircled the city to oust German troops. After the war, Hungary fell under Soviet influence, and Budapest became a focal point of resistance. The 1956 Hungarian Revolution, a nationwide uprising against Soviet control, saw intense fighting in the city, especially around the parliament and radio building. Though ultimately suppressed, the revolution left an indelible mark on Hungary's quest for freedom. Since the fall of the Soviet Union in 1989, Budapest has re-emerged as a vibrant and free European capital. The city underwent significant modernization and conservation efforts to restore its architectural heritage, while new developments sprang up, blending tradition with innovation. Today, Budapest is known for its stunning architecture, cultural events, bustling nightlife, and thriving arts scene. Budapest's story is one of resilience, rebirth, and cultural pride, making it a captivating destination for those looking to explore a city with a deep and dynamic history. The first settlement on the territory of Budapest was built by Celts before 1 AD. It was later occupied by the Romans. The Roman settlement, a quincum, became the main city of Pannonia Inferior in 106 AD. At first it was a military settlement, and gradually the city rose around it, making it the focal point of the city's commercial life. Today this area corresponds to the Óbuda district within Budapest. The Romans constructed roads, amphitheaters, baths and houses with heated floors in this fortified military camp. The Roman city of Aquincum is the best conserved of the Roman sites in Hungary. The archaeological site was turned into a museum with indoor and open-air sections. The Magyar tribes led by Arpad, forced out of their original homeland north of Bulgaria by Tsar Simeon after the Battle of Southern Buh, settled in the territory at the end of the 9th century, displacing the founding Bulgarian settlers of the towns of Buda and Pest. And a century later officially founded the Kingdom of Hungary. Research places the probable residence of the Arpads as an early place of central power near what became Budapest. The Tatar invasion in the 13th century quickly proved it is difficult to defend a plain. King Bela IV of Hungary, therefore, ordered the construction of reinforced stone walls around the towns and set his own royal palace on the top of the protecting hills of Buda. In 1361 it became the capital of Hungary. The cultural role of Buda was particularly significant during the reign of King Matthias Corvinus. The Italian Renaissance had a great influence on the city. His library, the Bibliotheca Corviniana, was Europe's greatest collection of historical chronicles and philosophic and scientific works in the 15th century, and second in size only to the Vatican Library. After the foundation of the first Hungarian university in Pécs in 1367, University of Pécs, the second one was established in Óbuda in 1395, University of Óbuda. The first Hungarian book was printed in Buda in 1473. Buda had about 5,000 inhabitants around the year 1500. The Ottomans conquered Buda in 1526, as well as in 1529, and finally occupied it in 1541. The Ottoman rule lasted for more than 150 years. The Ottoman Turks constructed many prominent bathing facilities within the city. Some of the baths that the Turks erected during their rule are still in use 500 years later, including Rudas baths and Kirali baths. By 1547 the number of Christians was down to about 1,000, and by 1647 it had fallen to only about 70. The unoccupied western part of the country became part of the Habsburg monarchy as Royal Hungary. In 1686, 2 years after the unsuccessful siege of Buda, a renewed campaign was started to enter Buda. This time, the Holy League's army was twice as large, containing over 74,000 men, including German, Croat, Dutch, Hungarian, English, Spanish, Czech, Italian, French, Burgundian, Danish and Swedish soldiers, along with other Europeans as volunteers, artillerymen and officers. The Christian forces seized Buda, and in the next few years, all of the former Hungarian lands, except areas near Temesvar Timura, were taken from the Turks. In the 1699 Treaty of Karlowitz, these territorial changes were officially recognized as the end of the rule of the Turks, and in 1718 the entire Kingdom of Hungary was removed from Ottoman rule. Budapest, strategically placed at the center of the Pannonian Basin, lies on an ancient route linking the hills of Transdanubia with the Great Plain. By road it is 216 kilometers, 134 mi southeast of Vienna, 545 kilometers, 339 mi south of Warsaw, 1565 kilometers, 972 mi southwest of Moscow, 1122 kilometers, 697 mi north of Athens, 1235 kilometers, 767 mi northeast of Rome, 788 kilometers, 490 mi northeast of Milan, 443 kilometers, 275 mi southeast of Prague, 343 kilometers, 213 mi northeast of Zagreb, 748 kilometers, 465 mi northeast of Split, and 1329 kilometers, 826 mi northwest of Istanbul. The 525 square kilometers, 203 sq mi area of Budapest lies in central Hungary, surrounded by settlements of the agglomeration in Pest county. The capital extends 25 and 29 kilometers, 16 and 18 mi in the north, south, east, west direction respectively. The Danube enters the city from the north, later it encircles two islands, Óbuda Island and Margaret Island. The third island, Sepal Island, is the largest of the Budapest Danube Islands. However, only its northernmost tip is within city limits. The river that separates the two parts of the city is 230 meters 755 feet wide at its narrowest point in Budapest. Pest lies on the flat terrain of the Great Plain while Buda is rather hilly. The wide Danube was always fordable at this point because of a small number of islands in the middle of the river. The city has marked topographical contrasts. Buda is built on the higher river terraces and hills of the western side, while the considerably larger Pest spreads out on a flat and featureless sand plain on the river's opposite bank. Pest's terrain rises with a slight eastward gradient, so the easternmost parts of the city lie at the same altitude as Buda's smallest hills, notably Gellért Hill and Castle Hill. The Buda Hills consist mainly of limestone and dolomite. The water-created speleothems, the most famous ones being the Pulvolgi Cave, total length 7,200 meters or 23,600 feet, and the Széchenyi Cave, total length 2,200 meters or 7,200 feet. The hills were formed in the Triassic period. The highest point of the hills and of Budapest is János Hill, at 527 meters 1,729 feet above sea level. The lowest point is the line of the Danube, which is 96 meters 315 feet above sea level. Budapest is also rich in green areas. Of the 525 square kilometers, 203 square miles occupied by the city, 83 square kilometers, 32 square miles is green area, park and forest. The forests of Buda Hills are environmentally protected. The city's importance in terms of traffic is very central, because many major European roads and European railway lines lead to Budapest. The Danube was and is still an important waterway, and this region in the center of the Carpathian Basin lies at the crossroads of trade routes. Budapest is one of only 3 capital cities in the world which has thermal springs, the others being Reykjavik in Iceland and Sofia in Bulgaria. Budapest is one of only 3 capital cities in the world which has thermal springs, the others being Reykjavik in Iceland and Sofia in Bulgaria. Some 125 springs produce 70 million liters, 15 million imperial gallons, 18 million US gallons of thermal water a day, with temperatures ranging up to 58 Celsius. Some of these waters have been claimed to have medicinal effects due to their high mineral contents. Budapest has a transitional climate between a humid temperate climate Köppen, CFA, Prevartha, Dok, and a humid continental climate, with warm to hot summers and chilly winters. Winter November until early March can be cold, and the city receives little sunshine. Snowfall is fairly frequent in most years, and nighttime temperatures of 10 degrees C 14 degrees Fahrenheit are not uncommon between mid-December and mid-February. The spring months see variable conditions, with a rapid increase in the average temperature. The weather in late March and in April is often very agreeable during the day and fresh at night. Budapest's long summer, lasting from May until mid-September, is warm or very warm. Sudden heavy showers also occur, particularly in May and June. The autumn in Budapest mid-September until late October is characterized by little rain and long sunny days with moderate temperatures. Temperatures often turn abruptly colder in late October or early November. Mean annual precipitation in Budapest is around 23.5 inches 596.9 millimeters on average. There are 84 days with precipitation and 1988 hours of sunshine of a possible 4,383 each year. From March to October, average sunshine totals are roughly equal to those seen in northern Italy, Venice. Budapest has architecturally noteworthy buildings in a wide range of styles and from distinct time periods, from the ancient times as Roman city of Aquincum in Obuda District 3, which dates to around 1989 AD, to the most modern Palace of Arts, the Contemporary Arts Museum and Concert Hall. Most buildings in Budapest are relatively low. In the early 2010s there were around 100 buildings higher than 45 meters 148 feet. The number of high-rise buildings is kept low by building legislation, which is aimed at preserving the historic cityscape and to meet the requirements of the World Heritage Site. Strong rules apply to the planning, authorization, and construction of high-rise buildings, and consequently much of the inner city does not have any. Some planners would like see an easing of the rules for the construction of skyscrapers, and the possibility of building skyscrapers outside the city's historic core has been raised. In the chronological order of architectural styles, Budapest is represented on the entire timeline, starting with the Roman city of Aquincum representing ancient architecture. The next determinative style is the Gothic architecture in Budapest. The few remaining Gothic buildings can be found in the Castle district. Buildings of note are number 18, 20 and 22 on Orsagas Street, which date back to the 14th century, and number 31 Uri Street, which has a Gothic facade that dates back to the 15th century. Other buildings with Gothic features are the Inner City Parish Church, built in the 12th century, and the Mary Magdalene Church, completed in the 15th century. The most characteristic Gothic-style buildings are actually neo-Gothic, like the most well-known Budapest landmarks, the Hungarian Parliament Building and the Matthias Church, where much of the original material was used, originally built in Romanesque style in 1015. The next chapter in the history of human architecture is Renaissance architecture. One of the earliest places to be influenced by the Renaissance style of architecture was Hungary, and Budapest in particular. The style appeared following the marriage of King Matthias Corvinus and Beatrice of Naples in 1476. Many Italian artists, craftsmen and masons came to Buda with the new queen. Today, many of the original Renaissance buildings disappeared during the varied history of Buda, but Budapest is still rich in Renaissance and Neo-Renaissance buildings, like the famous Hungarian State Opera House, St. Stephen's Basilica, and the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. During the Turkish occupation 1541-1686, Islamic culture flourished in Budapest. Multiple mosques and baths were built in the city. These were great examples of Ottoman architecture, which was influenced by Muslims from around the world, including Turkish, Iranian, Arabian and to a larger extent, Byzantine architecture as well as Islamic traditions. After the Holy League conquered Budapest, they replaced most of the mosques with churches, and minarets were turned into bell towers and cathedral spires. At one point, the distinct sloping central square in Budapest became a bustling oriental bazaar, which was filled with the chatter of camel caravans on their way to Yemen and India. Budapest is in fact one of the few places in the world with functioning original Turkish bathhouses dating back to the 16th century, like Rudas Baths or Kirali Baths. Budapest is home to the northernmost place where the tomb of influential Islamic Turkish Sufi dervish, Gul Baba, is found. Various cultures converged in Hungary seemed to coalesce well with each other, as if all these different cultures and architecture styles are digested into Hungary's own way of cultural blend. A precedent to show the city's self-conscious is the top section of the city's main square, named as Széchenyi. When Turks came to the city, they built mosques here, which was aggressively replaced with Gothic Church of St. Bartholin. The rationale of reusing the base of the former Islamic building mosque and reconstruction into Gothic church but Islamic-style architecture over it is typically Islamic are still visible. An official term for the rationale is Polia. The mosque was called the Dajami of Pasha Gaji Qasim, and Dajami means mosque in Arabic. After Turks and Muslims were expelled and massacred from Budapest, the site was reoccupied by Christians and reformed into a church, the Inner City Parish Church Budapest. The minaret and Turkish entranceway were removed. The shape of the architecture is its only hint of exotic past, to surviving prayer niches facing Mecca and an ecumenical symbol atop its cupola, a cross rising above the Turkish crescent moon. After 1686, the Baroque architecture designated the dominant style of art in Catholic countries from the 17th century to the 18th century. There are many Baroque-style buildings in Budapest, and one of the finest examples of preserved Baroque-style architecture is the Church of St. Anna in Bathiheni Square. An interesting part of Budapest is the less touristy Óbuda, the main square of which also has some beautiful preserved historic buildings with Baroque facades. The Castle district is another place to visit where the best-known landmark Buda Royal Palace and many other buildings were built in the Baroque style. The classical architecture and neoclassical architecture are the next in the timeline. Budapest had not one but two architects that were masters of the classicist style. Mihaly Pollack (1773–1855) and Joseph Hild (1789–1867) built many beautiful classicist-style buildings in the city. Some of the best examples are the Hungarian National Museum, the Lutheran Church of Budavar, both designed by Pollack, and the seat of the Hungarian president, the Sandor Palace. The most iconic and widely known classicist-style attraction in Budapest is the Széchenyi chain bridge. Budapest's two most beautiful romantic architecture buildings are the Great Synagogue in Dohány Street and the Vigdó Concert Hall on the Danube Promenade, both designed by architect Frigyes Feschl 1821-1884. Another noteworthy structure is the Budapest Western Railway Station, which was designed by Auguste de Serres and built by the Eiffel Company of Paris in 1877. Art Nouveau came into fashion in Budapest by the exhibitions, which were held in and around 1896 and organized in connection with the Hungarian Millennium celebrations. Art Nouveau in Hungary Secessió in Hungarian is a blend of several architectural styles, with a focus on Hungary's specialties. One of the leading Art Nouveau architects, Odin Lechner 1845-1914, was inspired by Indian and Syrian architecture as well as traditional Hungarian decorative designs. One of his most beautiful buildings in Budapest is the Museum of Applied Arts. Another examples for Art Nouveau in Budapest is the Gresham Palace in front of the chain bridge, the Hotel Gellért, the Franz Liszt Academy of Music or Budapest Zoo and Botanical Garden. The second half of the 20th century also saw, under the communist regime, the construction of blocks of flats, as in other Eastern European countries. In the 21st century, Budapest faces new challenges in its architecture. The pressure towards the high-rise buildings is unequivocal among today's world cities, but preserving Budapest's unique cityscape and its very diverse architecture, along with green areas, forces Budapest to balance between them. The contemporary architecture has wide margin in the city. Public spaces attract heavy investment by business and government also, so that the city has gained entirely new squares, parks and monuments. For example, the city central Kossuth Lajos Square, Geek Ferenc Square and Liberty Square. Numerous landmarks have been created in the last decade in Budapest, like the National Theatre, Palace of Arts, Rákóczi Bridge, Megyeri Bridge, Budapest Airport Sky Court among others, and millions of square meters of new office buildings and apartments. But there are still large opportunities in real estate development in the city. Budapest is a significant economic hub, classified as a Beta Plus World City in the study by the Globalization and World Cities Research Network, and it is the second fastest developing urban economy in Europe as GDP per capita in the city increased by 2.4% and employment by 4.7% compared to the previous year in 2014. On national level, Budapest is the primate city of Hungary regarding business and the economy, accounting for 39% of the national income. The city had a gross metropolitan product of more than $100 billion in 2015, making it one of the largest regional economies in the European Union. According to Eurostat, GDP per capita in purchasing power parity is 147% of the EU average in Budapest, which means €37,632, $42,770 per capita. Budapest is also among the top 100 GDP performing cities in the world, measured by PricewaterhouseCoopers. The city was named as the 52nd most important business center in the world in the Worldwide Centers of Commerce Index, ahead of Beijing, Sao Paulo and Shenzhen, and ranking third out of 65 cities on the Mastercard Emerging Markets Index. The city is 48th on the UBS the most expensive and richest cities in the world list, standing before cities such as Prague, Shanghai, Kuala Lumpur and Buenos Aires. In a global city competitiveness ranking by the EIU, Budapest stands before Tel Aviv, Lisbon, Moscow and Johannesburg among others. The city is a major center for banking and finance, real estate, retailing, trade, transportation, tourism, new media as well as traditional media, advertising, legal services, accountancy, insurance, fashion and the arts in Hungary and regionally. Budapest is home not only to almost all national institutions and government agencies, but also to many domestic and international companies. In 2014 there were 395.804 companies registered in the city. Most of these entities are headquartered in Budapest's Central Business District, in District V and District 13. The retail market of the city and the country is also concentrated in the downtown area, among others, in the two largest shopping centers in Central and Eastern Europe, the 186,000 SQM West End City Center and the 180,000 SQM Arena Plaza. Budapest has notable innovation capabilities as a technology and startup hub. Many startups are headquartered and begin their business in the city. Some of the best-known examples are Pregi, Logmein and NNG. Budapest is the highest-ranked Central and Eastern European city in the Innovation Cities Top 100 Index. A good indicator of the city's potential for innovation and research is that the European Institute of Innovation and Technology chose Budapest for its headquarters, along with the UN, whose regional representation for Central Europe office is in the city. Responsible for UN operations in 7 countries. Moreover, the global aspect of the city's research activity is shown through the establishment of the European Chinese Research Institute.